welcome to the broadcast. I'm Phaedra, for those of you who are new. If you are back, returning to the broadcast, welcome back. It's been a while since we've seen each other. My aim really is to provide guidance on these broadcasts with how we can consciously use the energy of the transiting planets to affect our lives in a positive way. And so really the idea is we want to be proactive with our astrological transits and not reactive with them, because we can more easily harness the energy and the cycles and all of the planetary energetics as they happen. If we're looking ahead and kind of anticipating how they can play out, we can understand better how to use them, and that's really the goal. So thanks for watching. Please like and share the broadcast. Tag a friend if you know someone who might be interested in joining us for what we're talking about today. And Danielle, if you're still on, let me know. It's good to see you. I know you had caught the new moon and Libra intention setting broadcast a little bit late yesterday, and so I didn't see you live while we were on that, but I saw that you had commented on that video. Welcome. You can follow Mystick, Physick, Astrology on Facebook if I didn't mention that already, and also please subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/c/Mystick, Physick, Astrology. Subscribe and sign up for notifications, and that way you'll be notified every time we go live, and you'll never miss a broadcast or an upload. Today we're going to be talking about recent astrological activity. So this broadcast is going to run maybe a little bit longer than normal. And it's because I'm going to kind of backtrack and talk about some things that have already happened, which we don't normally spend a lot of time doing on the Sidereal Insights broadcasts. But I kind of want to set the stage for where we're at right now, talk about current transits, what we have going on, and then we'll talk about what we can expect to see coming up through the end of the month and as we get into December. A lot of transitioning going on now through year end. And the first things first, what we're going to just kind of recap where we're at with the retrograde situation. Typically around mid-year, we have retrograde season. It's kind of our annual slowdown, and we're really just kind of coming out of that still. At the current moment. So we just had Mercury station direct after his third and final retrograde of the year. He stationed direct on November 3rd. Let me take a look. I want to have a look at some different charts real quick that I didn't check. Going into writing my notes. So give me just 1 second to get rid of the chart that's in this app and get here and now all set up. But we want, let's see, that's not where we want. Well, it'll work. It'll work. Okay. So right now, we're kind of gearing back up coming out of retrograde season. We had Mercury, of course, stationed direct November 3rd, like I was just saying. He'll leave his retrograde shadow coming up on the 19th, so here in just a couple, 3 days. All the planets will be direct beginning early next year once Uranus finally stations retrograde, which takes place early January, I think. I want to say the 4th, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. What day is it? I don't even see it. Maybe it's in December this year. I'll have to double check it. That's the only one I didn't look at was when Uranus stations direct. But Neptune's going to station direct later this month on the 29th. And that will help bring us a little bit further even out of retrograde season. We just had in October and September, we had 3 other planets finally return to direct motion. We had Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter between those 2 months, all stationed direct. And so things are kind of finally normalizing in that sense, in that energy is picking up. We can move forward in some ways, even though not always currently, just due to other planetary cycles in play and the effects that they're having. For us. But right now, to kind of recap where we currently have the planets in the sky, we've got Mercury in Libra, we've got Saturn in Capricorn, we just had Mars stationed direct in Pisces, we've got Jupiter in Sagittarius but about to make his move into Capricorn, and we've got Venus just having shifted or about to shift from Virgo into Libra. So a bit of shifting and adjusting going on. Now, Mercury's been in Libra. Let's talk about that because this has been a bit of a long transit, Mercury's been in Libra since September 22nd, and typically only spends about 2.5 or 3 weeks in a sign. This has been particularly long because he moved into Libra, got a good portion of the way through it, and then stationed retrograde and spent his entire retrograde in Libra, and then stationed direct on the 3rd of November, like we were just talking about. And now he's going to be in Libra until the 28th of this month. So that's been a long time for Mercury to be in Libra. And if you had a strong experience with that retrograde, you could have found that there was an opportunity for a reconciliation, either in a love affair or with a relationship with a child, or the opportunity to rethink a creative project during that time. Now, we also have Saturn in Capricorn right now. That's been with us for most of the year. Saturn first entered Capricorn on January 31st of this year, and he's going to be there until late January 2023. So we have a several year-long transit. And as he retrograded over the summer, he did not quite retrograde far enough to leave Sidereal Capricorn and re-enter Sagittarius. He came really close. He was at about half a degree when he finally stationed direct again. And so he backtracked pretty much all the progress he'd already made in Capricorn. And I think kind of giving us a nice kind of setting the stage opportunity for his coming 3-year transit through this sign, where we can really kind of get a sense of, well, what is this about? What are we working with? What are we dealing with? What are the fundamentals in place as we move forward through the Saturn in Capricorn transit? Now, Saturn in Capricorn, what this functions as is a time where you're tested. The strength of the structures that you have in place, anything that you are working with, the resources that you might be working with in this house, the structures that you are working with, the plans that you have in place, the goals, the ambitions, all of that. They're up for examination, and any place where there is weakness, Saturn will highlight that weakness, and you'll have an opportunity as we move through this transit of Capricorn to shore up those weaknesses, to repair things where they need to be repaired, to fix things, to change your approach, that sort of thing. And as we come out of the Saturn in Capricorn transit, anything where we haven't done that enough or to the proper degree, we'll see those structures finally break down to be completely replaced. That's generally how we can experience a Saturn transit in any sign, being tested for weakness, given the opportunity to deal with and address those weaknesses, to shore them up, to strengthen things. Now, typically that involves dealing with delays, with obstacles, with having to overcome limitations while Saturn is transiting that house. And so we'll all feel that expression a little bit differently. But Saturn will be in Capricorn until late January 2023. Like I also said, we just had Mars stationed direct in Pisces. Now, Mars had moved into Aries already when he began his retrograde earlier this year. And he stationed direct on the 13th. He returned to direct motion on the 14th in Pisces. He'll be in Pisces still until December 26th, so just after Christmas. And while Mars is in Pisces, this is similar to Mars in the 12th house type of transit in the way that we can engage the energy. It's a time for rest and for relaxation and for regeneration and recuperation. It's a time for retreat and for taking care of ourselves in private, behind closed doors, for self-care, if you will. Spiritual practice, meditation, contemplation, spiritual journeys, and explorations are all well supported while Mars is in Pisces or Mars is touring a 12th house. And it's a good time for solo projects and solo activities. And so use these final weeks of Mars in Pisces, especially now that he's direct, to wrap up any solo projects or solo activities that you have going on, and to fully address and embrace self-care, relaxation, and recuperation. Pisces folks, you're probably going to be feeling a little bit energized, especially during the days around the station and the return to direct motion. But yes, watch Mars for that. I think a lot of folks have been feeling this Mars transition in the last few days. November 12th, of course, we also just had the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, the final one in this series. And it comes as at a time that we enter this transition period. It's a time of permanent change and sometimes unpredictable change, affecting the foundations that underpin our lives and our status, potentially, the public facing side of our lives. And so that's something to kind of keep an eye on, especially as we move into and through this final eclipse season of the year. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a little bit. And finally, yesterday, we just had the new moon in Libra. So in terms of setting the stage, this is the last item that I want to talk about a little bit before we get into where we're at with the current transits and what's coming up in the next couple of weeks. The new moon in Libra. So this was not a super strong new moon opportunity. We have Venus in a weakened position for this new moon as the ruler. A weakened position for embracing the new moon opportunity is not really ideal. So we had Venus in Virgo, where she's in fall, unable to tap into her best qualities: fairness, justice, love, equality, cooperation, in part because of the nature of the circumstances we might find her in. So instead, we might experience other expressions of Venus that are not as favorable. Some maybe tapping into her shadow side. I think you can get into things like hedonism, maybe gluttony, maybe laziness, that sort of thing when we have Venus in Virgo. But part of the issue is that Venus, she wants us to compromise for the sake of maintaining harmony, right? These are hallmarks of Venusian energy: compromise and harmony. So this is very much the peacemaker. But squaring Jupiter and Sagittarius, what we're seeing there is kind of Jupiter balking at being asked to compromise on ideals and on personal philosophies or the notion of what's right or truth. And so in the face of that challenge, our partnerships can break down over that resistance to compromising our ideals, that resistance to compromising on what is the truth, what is real. And so we are experiencing that. And at that same time, we have Jupiter still in a fairly tight conjunction aspect with Pluto. We just have come off that in the last couple of days, and that doesn't offer Venus any real support. That conjunction to Pluto only adds the challenge of too much of a good thing at a time of transformative change. And we all know that too much of a good thing is not necessarily always a fun thing to deal with, and to be dealing with at a time of transition and transformative change. So this is akin to, being hung over after a celebration for something like a graduation or a promotion or a bachelor or bachelorette party, where you're about to undergo a major transition in your life. Things will never look like they have as you move forward into this new stage or new cycle. And maybe you've been celebrating, but maybe you've just been enjoying that a little bit too much. And now you're feeling the unpleasant effects of that celebratory energy, right? So Jupiter Pluto isn't necessarily helping matters along right here. That can stand to change as these upcoming days go by and we see these energies start to shift through sign changes, through some other aspects coming up, that sort of thing. But it's a transformative new moon, right? It has the potential to be destructive, or to be taking place in the aftermath of destruction or major change. Possibly this new moon can bring events that affect financial partnerships, or joint money matters, family businesses, real estate, that sort of stuff. But what's worth keeping in mind is that in a situation of destruction or a circumstance of destruction or change, where we're kind of dealing with the aftermath of something, lies the opportunity for creative rebirth. And that's really the nugget in this new moon. If you're willing to walk through hell, the hell that Pluto has presented you with, there's an opportunity for that creative rebirth in this new moon. And so, like I was saying, issues brought up by this new moon could relate to children, could relate to the breakdown of love with a partner. Not all the information is likely to be available right now. And it's possible that a partner maybe either isn't forthcoming or isn't forthright with you at this moment in time. Financial negotiations are not well supported. So if you don't have to engage in any sort of financial negotiations right now, please don't. Just hold off. It's not a good time. Just wait, kick that can. There's an intense need for creative freedom, though. And that could include creative rebirth, including changes to values or priorities, or changes of heart. Those are some of the ways that we can experience these transits that are going on in relation to the new moon in Libra. Now, I would caution you, wait to take an initiatory action until the 17th or later, so tomorrow or later. The reason being is that's when we'll see Mercury make his exact opposition to Uranus, and unexpected news could crop up around that time. And if you are faced with making an initiation or taking a right first step or a good first step in any activity, you'll want to do it with as much information at hand as possible. So wait for Uranus and Mercury to deliver their news. And while you're waiting for that to happen, that gives Venus time to move into Libra. And while that won't necessarily allow us to take full advantage of the potential that Venus has when she's in Libra, that would be unlocked if she were there in advance of the new moon, it does allow us to hopefully sidestep that Venus and Virgo energy a little bit and some of the challenges that come along with it. Now, we also have coming up more Venus activity this week. Quite a bit going on where she's encountering perfecting her square to Pluto, moves into Libra. So those of you with Taurus or Libra sun or rising, expect to be feeling some of these changes as we move through these aspects and these sign changes. We're going to have, like I said, the Mercury-Uranus opposition. While Venus is in Libra, she's in her rulership, right? This will be until December 11th. So we have a couple of weeks yet where we'll have Venus in her rulership once she makes this transition into Libra tomorrow. And that'll last through the early part of December. And so while she's there, while she's in her sign of rulership, focus on cooperation and on having fun one-on-one as we move through that early part of December. That's a good way to engage the Venus in Libra energy. Okay. We have the sun entering Scorpio tomorrow as well. November 17th until December 16th when he moves into Sagittarius. Now, this is a good time with the sun in Scorpio to be making plans for the new year. Be making your plans for the coming year while we have the benefit of having this kind of strategic focus right now, readily available as an energy that we can tap into. And the new year is coming, so why not? We are, of course, in the middle of a pandemic, but make a plan anyway, and maybe even make a plan B just in case. Like, make a worst case scenario, best case scenario set of plans. Go in forearmed and be prepared for opportunities for change to come unexpectedly. Maybe make a plan, best case and worst case scenario for 2021 while we have the sun in Scorpio and easy access to that strategic type of energy. Now, coming up, we have some notable transitions in energy. On the 19th, we have Mercury leaving his retrograde shadow. That's coming up in about 3 days. And at that time, we're going to have Venus perfecting her square to Saturn while the sun is sextiling Saturn. So more of this Venus energy, challenging Venus energy going on as we move through the coming weeks. And then folks with Capricorn Sun and Capricorn Rising are going to be likely to be feeling this energy on the 19th with Venus ruled Libra and Taurus. Folks not far behind in terms of who will feel the greatest impact from these aspects coming up to Saturn as we move into next week or midweek, I guess you could say. Coming up on the 24th, we have Mercury entering a trine to Neptune, just as Neptune is stationing to end his retrograde. So when a planet moves into stationary, it becomes much more intense, much more powerful because it seems to not be moving against the backdrop of the sky. So its energy is very much concentrated on this one point in the sky. And what happens right now, because it's Neptune shifting directions, Neptune having to do with clarity, with confusion, with disillusionment, with disappointment, with deception and lies, with Neptune being the natural ruler of Pisces in the 12th house, which is about secrets, right? What could happen now as we see this station and shift in directions with Neptune, just as Mercury's trining it, we could see that be revelatory in some sense, where there is a secret that comes to light, some sort of information that comes out, where you maybe didn't have access to this and now suddenly you do, in conjunction with the Neptune station and Mercury trine. So keep in mind that that information could affect the direction that you move forward as we move through the new moon in Libra, which of course happened just yesterday. So watch for that Mercury trine Neptune coming up on the 24th. On the 25th, we've got Jupiter returning to Capricorn. Now, Jupiter entered Capricorn earlier this year in early April. And then when he went retrograde shortly after in May. And the retrograde took him back out of Capricorn, back into Sagittarius, where he's been since then. And now he's about to shift back into Capricorn. Now, we've already gotten a taste of this in the early weeks of April and the beginning of May. And so we kind of already have a feel, I think, for what this can feel like in our own charts. We're going to have Jupiter in Capricorn until early April of next year. And he's in fall in this positioning. So he's not necessarily in his strongest position. We don't necessarily get access to the best qualities and the best results with Jupiter when he's in Capricorn. But this can, just due to the astrology of the Ingress, be a period of time where we experience profound transformation and metamorphosis between now and early April. But this is a time when you want to be concerned with results and not appearances. So make your satisfaction dependent on results and not on appearances between now and early April. And it's a time to start with dialogue. Begin with communication, with dialogue, with the exchange of information and ideas. If you want to make the rest of the Jupiter and Capricorn period successful as much as possible for you, even though, like we said, Jupiter is in fall in Capricorn. What this can play out as for us, if we're not paying attention, if we're not kind of trying to rein Jupiter in a little bit, which isn't that what Saturn and Capricorn naturally do, is rein us in, can give us kind of dictatorial tendencies. We might tend to throw our weight around or abuse our authority in some way, or end up with these attitudes of my way or the highway. We can also get caught in escalation of commitment, where we might continue to cling to something that's no longer serving us, or something that we really need to move on or let go of, simply because of everything, all that we've invested in it up to this point. And we can't conceive of losing that investment, right? And so that can feed into that escalation of commitment notion. We can become excessively stubborn. Think of goats, and goats can be kind of stubborn, right? And Jupiter, of course, exacerbates that. He expands what he touches. Well, it doesn't always mean it's a good thing that Jupiter expands what he touches, right? It can also make us kind of this all work and no play type of mentality, married to the career or married to the job. And so be watchful of that. Be sure to carve out time to step away, time to give yourself space and room to play and to just have fun. That's very, very important. We can face greater limitations or more obstacles when Jupiter's moving through Capricorn. And we may very naturally want to push back on those limitations. And so this can show up as testing boundaries. It can show up as an increasing series of delays, or as a delaying of the inevitable. It can also show up as moving goalposts. This can be a time when the chickens really come home to roost, if that makes sense. We can experience this a lot of frustration during Jupiter and Capricorn transits. And we can experience a bit of stinginess or miserliness, potentially a lack of generosity, kind of a coldness potentially. Watch for that. Watch for the tendencies to some of those less favorable expressions of Jupiter as he moves through Capricorn, and just do what you can to be cognizant of the fact that they're going to be there and to work in a different direction, one that's a little bit more beneficial. But surely we're being asked to address our commitments and responsibilities, any outstanding obligations that we've made in our Capricorn house during this transit. And so this is a good time to do it. Once Jupiter moves out of Capricorn in early April of next year, we won't have his support here. So even though he's not strong, he's still supporting us and protecting us to some degree of the challenges inherent with a Saturn in Capricorn transit. But once Jupiter leaves in April, we're still going to have Saturn in Capricorn through 2023, or the early part of 2023. And so we won't have his protection or his benefits kind of cushioning that hardship that we can face with Saturn here. So take as much advantage of the months that we have Jupiter here in Capricorn as possible before he leaves in early April. Okay, so coming up on the 28th of November, we're going to have Mercury moving into Scorpio until December 17th. Now, this is really a time when strategic thinking is a strong suit. We could be good with research, with investigation, with analysis, anything that requires understanding of psychology. Counseling and therapy can be well-supported activities. While we have Mercury in Scorpio, can also be a good time to be dealing with financial negotiations, debt settlement, estate planning, and wills while we have Mercury in Scorpio. So consider those activities if they are timely or relevant for you during the weeks that we have Mercury in Scorpio until December 17th. And then on the 29th at the month end, we have Neptune stationing direct, as I was talking about earlier in the broadcast. So Neptune retrograde, like we were talking, can expose secrets, lies, deceptions, rot, and decay. Hidden rot, decay that is covered and under the surface, right? So this is made a little bit more impactful by the fact that this is happening right at eclipse time. And we saw this happen earlier this year when he stationed retrograde the first time. It was also happening at eclipse time. And so this is an important one to keep an eye on, especially because we just had a few days prior to the 29th when Neptune stations direct, we had Mercury ping off of Neptune as he was entering his station, basically. So this could be significant information, information that's been hidden from your awareness or from your sight that comes to light, that comes into your awareness now at the time of the station. So watch for that. And with Neptune stationing at eclipse time, so eclipse time is a period of changes, right? Typically of changes beyond our ability to control and often permanent change. With the Neptune station taking place at an eclipse, what that can mean is that there's a potential for whatever the information is that's revealed, whatever it is that the secrets are that are being exposed, there's a potential for those revealings to trigger irrevocable change, even if that change isn't related to a beginning or an ending, like we would typically see at eclipse time. Those changes usually have to do with a permanent beginning or a permanent ending. With Neptune, that can make things a little bit blurry, and it can reveal information even if it's not related to a beginning or ending. It can bring to light information that triggers an irrevocable change in some way. So keep that in mind as we move through the end of the month. That is, of course, as I was saying, November 29th, and the very next day we have our lunar eclipse in Taurus. Now, we're entering a season that's big changes coming. This is the last eclipse season of 2020 occurring in the Taurus-Scorpio pairing, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. I think I have set up tentatively for the 23rd, so next Monday at 1:30, my normal Monday broadcast time, 1:30 Mountain Standard Time, 3:30 Eastern Time, 8:30 p.m. GMT, and 7:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, if I finally have that right, on November 20th. What we'll be doing is taking an in-depth look. No, November 24th is what day that would be happening if you're in Australia. Yeah, because I put down the wrong date. I put November 19th, and then I changed my mind to the 23rd and the 24th. Okay, so this is not Thursday and Friday. It's actually Monday and Tuesday. Okay, of next week, we're going to have our in-depth look at this eclipse season, including all the critical dates and degrees that you want to know as we move into 2021. So we're going to talk about all of that in that broadcast. We're going to talk about the dates in eclipse season proper and the dates moving into the next 12 months that you'll want to keep an eye on. And then looking ahead through the end of the year, we have some more Venus activity kicking into gear in the early part of December. We'll be talking about that quite a bit. If you have Taurus or Libra, again, Sun or Rising, you're going to be feeling a lot of this volatility as we move through the rest of November and December. We're going to be talking about, again, as we come up on the 21st of December, the great conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn. And then, of course, Mars moving into Aries on the 26th. But we'll talk about all that and more on the next Sidereal Insights Astro update coming up November 30th. We'll talk more about all of that. 1:30 p.m. Mountain Time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, like I was saying. And then join me the Monday after on the 23rd. Or the 24th if you're in Australia, and we'll talk about this final eclipse season of 2020. We'll get into the details on that. I want to thank you all for joining me today. I'm trying to think. I had one piece of news for you. Oh, I know what it was. Stay tuned because we are still working on the planner for 2021. There will be planners available for 2021, but what I wanted to direct you to, and I don't know if I have it here. I might have to get it to you after the live video ends. I wanted to direct you to the link to my broadcast on Eclipse Essentials, 3 important Eclipse Essentials you need to know to give you an opportunity to kind of brush up on how to navigate eclipse season between now and Monday when we talk specifically about these 2 upcoming eclipses in Taurus and Scorpio on the 30th of November and the 14th of December. And that way you can get up to speed. I don't have a link handy. I'll grab it once we end the live video, and I'll post it in the video description on YouTube and on Facebook for you. But I want to thank everyone for joining me. I'm going to pop through and just make sure, did we have any more questions? Danielle, oh good, she's staying. Revision planning, she said, started. So Danielle, you were commenting. Apparently I didn't see your comments when they came through live because the screen didn't refresh. Revision planning starting the Mercury retrograde and processed forward on the 12th and the 24th is the first surgeon appointment just in time for the eclipse. Oh, wow. Major change for you, Danielle. That's good news. You'll have to tell me more about it. I'm curious about that. I'm glad that they've got a plan in place for you on that. That's a major surgery. I've been thinking a lot about your surgery lately and your situation, and this would be nice to give you the opportunity to finally kind of come through some of that and see some positive changes in your situation because you've been dealing with that for some time. But I want to thank you for sticking around even as we had technical difficulties at the beginning of the broadcast, and I will edit those out for those of you who are catching the replay. So bear with me on that. I'll include timestamps so that you can jump ahead of that initial part of the broadcast when I didn't have the microphone unmuted, and I apologize for that and apologize for the delay getting started. But thank you all for joining me again. We have some more broadcasts, like I said, coming up. The 23rd, we're going to talk about eclipses. The 29th, we're going to have our full moon releasing practice for the lunar eclipse in Taurus. And then the next day on the 30th, we'll have our Monday broadcast again. So quite a few broadcasts as we hit the ground running coming out of this election season. And boy, what an election season it was. Thank you all for joining me, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.